And we had puck drop of the 2021-2022 season. The Habs start the season against the Toronto Maple Leafs. What I'm doing every week is I'm rounding up each game, telling you how I felt, how did the Habs play. Hello, fellow Habs fans. Welcome back to this episode of the Habs Fan Forum. I'm Ben Danke, your host, and here at the Habs Fan Forum, this is where us fans get to have our voices heard. And we had puck drop of the 2021-2022 season. The Habs start the season against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, as if we haven't played them enough, but after a wild playoff finish in the finals and then a crazy tumultuous offseason where the Habs had a complete overhaul. It is good to be back. Good to see them playing regular season games that matter. What I'm doing every week is I'm rounding up each game, telling you how I felt, how did the Habs play, how did they turn out, who was I noticing, who was on the downtrend, and just kind of what I'm generally excited about over the week. Alright, Wednesday night puck drop, we have the Habs flying into the Leafs. It was so cool seeing the Habs walking through Toronto. A lot of the, having all that game day coverage back on Sportsnet, TSN, wherever you're watching. But, they captured all those suited up Habs walking downtown Toronto, CN Tower backdrop, ready to go. The Leafs, for the first time in over 500 days, had a full stadium. Actually, I don't think they sold out, but they were allowed to have a full stadium, so that's a little different. You can tell, there's more energy in the air, especially in the streets. Even the 15,000 people watching a game is better than what we were dealing with last year. But the Leafs still have some things to work on when it comes to atmosphere, I'd say. Opening lineup, this is not the same team. Let's face it, there's tons of overhaul. And no Shea Weber, and for the foreseeable future, no Carey Price, which these Habs have a lot to make up for because those are two of the best players in the league and two gigantic holes. So, off-season acquisitions and changes definitely help the matters, but without those two, this is a new-look season opener and was definitely a different feel. Also, didn't like they sent Paling down, and they did insert Paquette to the lineup, so that's something new from the preseason. You can see he was out injured for a little while. On the Leafs side, no Austin Matthews, still dealing with that wrist injury. Marner was shaken up, maybe not playing, but he did end up playing. So, an almost full Leafs roster, but missing one of the best players in the world. So maybe a time the Habs could capitalize. All right, first period. Wow. This team came out swinging. The Habs were on fire. That Josh Anderson, Dvorak, and Drouin line. Whew, they just were buzzing, especially in that first period. I called it out before the game. I'm like, this is one of those games Anderson's going to look dominant, and he did. And eventually, one of the turnovers that he forced and rushes into the zone, feeds Drouin, finishes a cross-ice seam pass, and buries it no problem. Drouin gets his first goal of the season, which was honestly, seeing that line and how kind of, Drouin was smiling, Josh Anderson, him joking on the bench, having a good time, the chemistry with Dvorak being a little bit more defensive, watching those two kind of roam around a little bit more than you might want. But you know what? They were buzzing. It was fun. They were aggressive, causing chances, causing headaches. That was by and far the best period for the Habs, and that was definitely their best line in their best period. So the Habs go up 1-0, and unfortunately start getting into some penalty trouble, and the Leafs capitalize. Basically the tail end of the power play, but still, a screenshot on Jake Allen. At first I was skeptical, but it did look like he was screened, so not too much he could have done there, but they tie it up, and going into the second period, the Leafs had the momentum. They kind of took that from them with the special teams and a dumb penalty by Romanoff, and it killed the momentum that they created from that initial buzz, and the Leafs took over. Before I get into the second period, just a quick word from our sponsors. Habs Fan Forum, proudly a part of Rocket Sports Media, and of course the Hockey Podcast Network, and that means we are sponsored by DraftKings. And right now, DraftKings Sportsbook has a new offer that is on fire. You can go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and on your first bet, if you make a bet of $1, and if that team scores 1 goal in the game, which we all know is pretty likely these days, then you'll get $100 of free bets. All you gotta do is use the promo code THPN on sign up, and basically a free $100 of bet money for you to use. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state right now, that's okay. You can still play for huge cash prizes all year long. Just remember to use the promo code THPN on your sign up. Alright, back to the game. Second period, Leafs started kind of dominating the Habs. Unfortunately, they took over the period. Were controlling puck possession. Just a much better period. They looked more dangerous. I already talked about that Dvorak, Anderson, Drouin line, but I gotta say, that Caulfield line, anytime he's on the ice, they look dangerous too, and they had some pretty good chances throughout this period as well. Suzuki and Toffoli and Caulfield kind of meshing a little bit better, but Leafs still largely outplaying. And then third period, very close into the third period, Willie Nylander. Man, he's a Hab killer, that guy. I think he's got 11 goals and 19 points in 22 games against them. Pretty ridiculous. Last year's playoffs, even though the Habs won, Willie was great. So he comes along and just puts a beautiful shot past Allen. You would have obviously liked Allen to save it, but you know what? Sometimes the shooter just beats him. And that was a beauty shot. And that ended up being the game winner. The Habs had a 5-on-3 chance that just looked flat out the gate. They had a minute and like 50 seconds because of a Marner mess up early on in the first penalty. And I don't think for the first minute they were even in the zone for more than a few seconds. Just fumbled pucks, bad passes, obvious play, not moving your feet. This new look power play started off real rough. You're not capitalizing on an almost 2-minute 5-on-3. There's a big problem. And they didn't even look dominant on the 5-on-3. Eventually, second unit came out, and they had some scramble chances, way better, but also not where we want them to be. So, they didn't bury, and the Leafs held on. At the end, there was that little scuffle between Gallagher. Gallagher kind of like, typical Gallagher. I actually kind of love it. So, kind of pushes Jack Handle. Nothing serious, but just lets him know, hey, in your face, what's up? And then the next play, the Leafs let him have it. If this was any other game in that was way down the line in the season or a playoff game, I wouldn't have wanted Josh Anderson to jump in like that. Set the tone early, came in to defend his guy, would have wanted the opportunity but to tie the game without being down a man, but I can't fault him too much. It was pretty good that he jumped in for Gallagher. At the end of the day, we all understand though, Gallagher's going to cause that stuff, so the refs called it fair. It just didn't turn out well for the Habs. So tail of the tape, Habs lose, special teams for sure, and that was pretty much the main difference maker. It was a pretty close game overall. It was honestly a lot of fun to watch. I really love that new second line. My biggest surprise of this, and we were talking about this on our Rocket Sports Media chat, and I noticed it from the first period, was the third line of the Habs was largely outplayed. Gallagher was non-existent in those first couple of periods, and Armia, who normally is a presence on the ice, just didn't have it. Jake Evans, who, he's not meant to drive the full play. He's meant to be causing turnovers. He's a third-line center, right? Getting that energy into the line. However, it just, the whole line itself kind of looked a little bit, they just got outplayed at the end of the day. So I would expect that's a strength of these Habs, that depth, and it really wasn't there in this game. Overall, it was a fun first game. On defense, they need Edmondson back, but there were some shaky pairings there. They're just going to have to keep working on that. Alright, that's it for this week's edition of the Habs Fan Forum. Thank you so much for watching. Just like down below, share, tell your friends, let other Habs fans know about this so they can follow on a weekly basis. They have the Buffalo Sabres up next in a back-to-back, and then they got a jam-packed week the next week. So lots of games on a weekly basis that I'll be going through. You can always subscribe to our allhabs.net YouTube channel. So subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so you can get notified of future episodes. We're also gonna have lots of game interviews and other awesome content that if you love anything Montreal Canadiens, you're gonna want to tune in. So subscribe to that YouTube channel. Go to allhabs.net, check out the podcast, check out some of those the game updates, a little more detail that I'm going into in these videos. So once again, thanks for watching. I'm Ben Dankey, and of course, woo! Go Habs, go, baby!